Okay, we're starting now. I ready with this. Has it started yet? Hi guys, is everything working fine with the stream? No. Hi Aditya. Okay, very good. I hope everything was working fine. I'm just going to um, play one regular game again against someone before we have really. I see we have now 11 viewers. We're just going to wait a little bit further. Oh, Luka Bolchevich is here. Yeah, Terrell, I watched your games and I've sorted some games out, which I think are very instructive. And today's subject will be the problems of knights in chess openings and chess middle games. So there are really cool examples of yours in which are meeting really our ideas today, which is very good, I think. Where to go? Bishop f4. Let's go bishop f4. So they're meeting these ideas, especially with these problems of knights. We'll talk about this topic today, and I think it's very, very important. So we have now the space advantage here. Yeah, you could maybe take, but I like my chances on d6 here. So today's subject, as I said, problems of knights, very, very important topic. I think we'll have first a check. Should we place first a check? Yeah, check is cool. My brother is here, very cool. So I've analyzed, as I said, some of your games. So first we're doing this problems of knights, and then we'll analyze also your games. So let's play here first a check, cover check, so we don't have to lose our knight. And we could go here. We could go here and threaten a double check on d7. If he takes, I'll simply take. It comes with check. So rook d7 is now the threat, a double check. Okay, and after that game, I think we can then start. Do you agree with? So where should I place now the check? I could again go queen b4, king c7, then again a check. He cannot take with the king, he has to take with the bishop or queen. I think that could work, at least. Maybe there are better ideas, but that's the one I see. Where's mate in 1? I couldn't see it. I just saw this line. Okay, at least I've grabbed the queen now and threaten also to take out the bishop. Okay. Where should I go now? Okay. Good game for the beginning. So we're starting now with the problems of knights. We have talked about problems of bishops in our previous video. No problem, Yokos. Most welcome for a game. Not a problem. We can play maybe even today further, but we're doing now this subject, problems of knights, and then I've prepared here 1, 2, 3. I think your games. I think They were very important, very instructive, and they're meeting with this idea, which is really cool. They're meeting with these ideas, also the problems of knight, especially one game. Yeah, I just wanted to know also, so I hope you have seen my series, how to spot tactical ideas in chess. I hope you saw that series. I think it's very important. So we're starting now with the first example of the problems of knights. And uh, when we're playing with knights, of course, we want to play the knights towards the center. So we want to occupy the knight with the knight this four centralized squares. Especially, we want to play this outposts. An outpost would be very cool here if, for instance, this knight on d6 would be supported by the pawn on e5, and this would be then the so-called octopus knight. This would be a monster knight on d6 because this knight couldn't be challenged by any minor piece, so it's on a dark square. But today we're talking about the subject of the knight on the edge of the board, and there are examples in which a knight on the edge of the board is good. There are examples when the knight on the edge of the board is not good, and there are also examples in which you can use the knight on the when the knight is on the edge of the board, then you can use this moment sort of and then attack the position. The knight will be sort of a vortex for us in order to attack, so it will be like we're beaming into the attack because our opponent has a bad knight. So I've used many of these examples already in my Basics in Chess series, but today with more examples, and I think they're even slightly better because we'll have this knight on b6 and knight on g6 idea. We'll come to that part. So here my first question in this example is here this move knight on a5 a good move by black? So is this a good knight on the edge of the board? So that's the question. So here, when we're playing with the knight on the edge of the board, we have to have a clear idea about this knight. This knight, hello Paulo. Paulo, I saw your Gmail email too on Gmail, and I read, I watched the games that you sent me. They're really cool. Thank you for posting me. So the question is here: is this knight on a5 a good idea by black? So yeah, it's a bad move because it's simply doing nothing. You see, at least when we are playing knight to a5, we have to have at least some kind of attack. But yeah, this knight on c4 cannot happen. This knight is controlling that square. The rook is controlling. The queen is controlling the square. Knight on b7 is not a possibility. So it's not a nice attack. So here, how should we proceed? So probably, yeah, rook c7, very good by same box, very good. So rook c7, you see black hasn't competed here on the c file. He should maybe attack the knight first, getting rid of the knight, and maybe somehow compete on the c file, because we have talked about the rook competition on open files, very important stuff. So you see black has lost the battle on the c file here in the game. It was a gameplay by FM Geller against Ratmir Kolmov. Here rook to c7, queen to d8, and now rook c7, rook c1. I just wanted to move a little bit faster when we come to tactical problems, how we are reacting. The e5 was played, so you see black is really paralyzed here. Black doesn't have any good square anymore on the board. You see how one move in chess can mess up your whole position, and that's really a sort of suggestion for beginners that you should not place with your knight on the edge of the board. Maybe you can have sometimes a good opportunity with the knight on the edge of the board, but here it's not that example. Here e5, d takes e5, bishop to e6. Here the trades of bishops has been played, and now here queen to e4. Now we come to the tactical part of this game. Knight to b3. Again, the question: should we retreat with the knight? We have talked about these ideas when we get attacked. Should we counterattack? Hi Spielwolf, very cool that you're here. So the question is, should we retreat? As we talked about this psychology in chess, when we get attacked in chess, we want to retreat, and that's not good. Our first idea always in our head should be counterattack, counterattack, counterattack. So how can we maybe counterattack, or maybe we cannot counterattack, but as we talked about it, we should at least consider the option of a counterattack. At least we want to be sharp. If it's not possible, then it's not possible, but at least we have thought about it. So knight to b3, the rook is attacked. Should we here maybe retreat with the rook, go somewhere else? Should we counterattack? Maybe it's time now here. Yeah, tactical shot. The counterattack is also a very, very important topic, and I think we'll talk about that many times in this series. Knight check is possible. Okay, I agree. King to h8. What now? Okay, knight to e7, perfectly fine. It's okay. I think still we have knight e7 check. Okay, but what to do now? What? There was actually one better move. There was actually one better move than knight e7. Actually, one better counterattack, which takes away really the queen's activity. So there is h4. Very good, very good. Spiel, thank you for your h4, because we want here the queen not to come to h6. The queen, yeah, it has to be. So here h4 takes out really the queen's activity, because queen to g6 is not a possibility. Then knight to e7 will happen. So you see h4 is more aggressive. Again, let's see. So queen to d8. Again, the question, do we have to move the rook? Is it necessary? Is it necessary to so is it necessary to move the rook? Rook c8 we have seen here as a possibility. Rook c8 is also very good with fork ideas. So there is now really a great move, because again we talked about these ideas. We have the pieces on active squares. We have really a great activity. Rook is good, rook is good, knight is good, queen is not good. So again, it's like improving the last piece, so improving the best, including the next attacker into the game. So we value always the pieces when we're on the attacking side like this. Which piece is good, which piece is not good. The queen on e4 is not good. So there is one great move. So queen g4, yes. So very good, queen g4. So but that's exactly how I should think in chess. So the pieces are on good squares, then one piece needs improvement. Simple idea. So and you can maybe put somehow this position into an engine. Queen g4 is really the suggested move by the engine, but it's really the best move that's suggested. So queen g4, rook c8 is the third option, but queen g4 is really the best move. So here, after move queen to g4, we have a g6. Again, the question, should we retreat? Should we we have now two pieces hanging. How to be again active? Knight a6 is check, very good. Knight to e7 is here also a nice possibility. Here you have now really great attacking opportunities. Every line is +4, at least +4 here for white. Here in the game, white tried rook to c6, but okay, as I said, at least we want to be sharp, you know, because after I hope you realize many beginners would, after the move knight to b3, would really consider only the option to where to go with the rook and how to escape. Wouldn't even consider the possibility of a counterattack. We have talked about that. Very important. So so here queen d3 was played, and now white tried knight to h6. We have king to g7, and now here again, let's see a possible tactical shot. So let's see now the sharp attack. So e6 is a possibility, yeah, here too, but there is pawn e5 to e6. There is one sharper line. Of course, when we calculate tactics, then we want to always consider the first move that's creating immediate damage, you know, immediate. So it's like, it's not the same if our threat is in 2-3 moves or our threat is in the next move. So there is one sharper line. It's actually a forced checkmate in 10, but still I think yeah, knight to f7. Here if you try rook to f7, then rook to f7, here king to f7, and here rook to c7 is a possibility. But that's really not the point really of this thing that we talked about. Very important here is for you to recognize here after the move knight to b3 that we should at least consider the option of the counterattack, and that was all possible. All of our attack was possible because the knight was placed on the edge of the board. So okay, I hope you realize this was a winning game for white. As I said, every line is basically winning for white. It was a great attack by Efim Geller. Here it's now a new example. Here we have again the knight on the edge of the board, and we see now that this knight is attacking the bishop, and we've talked about this tempi in the opening. So when we're playing, we want to play not so many times with the same piece. So there is now maybe a great idea here for white to force this knight to stay on the edge of the board. So we've talked about it. It's really again a sharp line, but you have to realize these patterns in chess games. Although this line is sharp for both sides, but we have to really try to be sharp in chess. If you're not sharp in chess, then you can maybe be a cook or something. I'm just kidding. So it's really important to be sharp, because we need these attacking possibilities. We have this knight on the edge of the board, and it has to be sort of a trigger for us and also sort of a pattern for us. So there is now a way how to restrict this knight's ability to play, include our activity into the game, and now going into really some mad lines. So what's black trying to do? Black is trying, of course, to get a nice activity with this knight to centralize it. Queen d6 is a simplified line, I think, for us. Knight takes b4, queen to b4, and I don't think that we gain anything. Bishop d6, yeah, bishop d6 was the move. And here, if you try queen takes g2, then bishop to f3, I think is very dangerous. You could have troubles with the queen, the knight is out of game, then we can maybe play queen to d2 and queenside castling. It will be a very messy position for black. Black couldn't castle. I think black will have developing problems. So here b6 was played, knight to f3, bishop to b7, castling. So you see we have now a great setup, c5, and here knight to h4. Is this really a possibility? So what happens if the queen takes? What will happen if queen takes h4? What's our next continuation? So yeah, bishop to a3 was also a nice idea. So, but then we're allowing, after bishop to a3, we would have allowed this move knight to c7, and the knight could then maybe, so the knight on the edge of the board is really something that you... What's the move now? After queen takes h4. It was a very cool move by Alexander Onishchuk here with what would be now queen a4. Yeah, very good. So it's winning. You have to get your rook, your king here, then rook d1 will happen. You are really in serious trouble. So again, I hope you realize that this knight on the edge of the board is a pattern, sort of, that you have to recognize. It's something that has to be a trigger for you, that something is going on in the positions. You know, it's simple as that. Of course, here it's an example. Here it's our third example. Is this move knight to a4 a bad knight on the edge of the board? That's now our next question. Is this a bad knight now on the edge of the board? It was a game played by Dominguez Perez Liner against Yuniesky Quesada Perez. So here is this move, knight to a4, a bad knight on the edge of the board. That's the question. We have the answer yes, not yet. So this move, knight on a4, is very important because we want to battle this pawn storm. Black has here a central pawn storm, so we have to target this weak square. So we have to block this backward pawn. It's still a backward pawn here, the c6. What black is trying to do here is to advance the pawn on c5. After a potential e takes d5, he would then connect maybe here two pawns in the center, and they would be this mobile pawns. And if that happens, then you see c4, d4 would be possibility. So at least we're threatening something. At least we're doing something with this knight. And the most important thing is that this knight cannot be trapped. So it's a very, very important move. So it's not the same. It's not like in this position. We can notice also that this bishop is bad. It's blocked out so far. In the game here, castling was played. We have c4, e takes d5, bishop to d takes e4, bishop to e4, and now bishop to b7, bishop to f3, queen to c7. And what's now our next move? Let's play now a very important move, because we have played that knight on the edge of the board. We have talked about it. It has to mean something. This knight on the edge of the board has to do something at least. So we're battling for one particular square. So let's see now the next move. So queen to a5, b3, simply fixing the knight. It's not a problem here. Then we'll find still good squares. Knight to c3, knight to e4, bishop to e3. Yeah, we want to play our blockade. We want to play here knight to c5, and maybe even bishop to c5, bishop to c5, then knight to c5, and black is continuing the game with a blocked out bishop. Pawn c5 is not a possibility, because we'll simply take, bishop takes, queen takes, and here maybe knight takes c5, bishop to c5, and black has lost the pawn. c5 is not a possibility. So we played on this pin, positional pin sort of. It's not a pin that attacks worthier piece or something, but bishop to e3 is paralyzing now the queen side. So black has to make now new movements in order to improve his structure. That's the most important thing. Our pawn structure is much more healthier. We can notice that. Still, of course, we have here a 4 versus 3 situation. Here it's a 3 versus 2, but these are isolated pawns, and they could be long-term weakness. So that's why black was forced here to play knight to d7, develop further, but it gives now the opportunity for us to take over on the d file. So black has lost sort of a tempo with this knight to d7. Now c5 was played. Here we had bishop to b7, queen to b7, now rook to d2, queen to c6, and here you see with this fast progress, with this fast developing style here by white, white has taken over on the c file. Now suddenly this bishop is blocked out by its own pawn. It's always stuck a little bit to the defense of the c5, and these are top grandmasters playing. So you see simple ideas, simply knight on the edge of the board, we're attacking. We want to create this blockade idea, or never allow this c5 move. Black had to prepare this move, black had to make many movements, but it gave us now the opportunity to regroup, to get a new attacking setup. So I hope you realize this was a good knight. It blocked really the potential progress of blacks. Very important. So do you agree with that, or do you have different ideas about this position? It's rook d8. Yeah, of course, black has to compete now also on the d file. We'll stop now here. It's not the point about what's going on in the continuation of the game. It's just for you to realize how this is really top grandmaster level, how they played on simple ideas in chess. They played simply on weak square positions, targeting this squares on the other side of the board, trying to improve their minor pieces. Here it's not a complex position, of course. It's not a Mikhail Tal game where we sacrificing, but these are the most often played chess games. You have to win games like this, not by creating some dangerous tactics. This will happen maybe once in 100 games. This is how a chess game is won, by simple targeting weak squares, targeting weak pawns, improving the position of minor pieces, targeting, feeling these pawn structures. Pawn structures are very important. Creating isolated pawns, these are basic elements. So many games are simple ended like this. Of course, we can see sometimes a beautiful tactical game, but this is now a much better position here for white. White has a much healthier pawn structure, can be improved even with b3. Still, our knight is of course perfectly fine. It can be remaneuvered, so it's not a trapped knight. But here is a very cool game. Again, here it was a game played by Laurent Fressinet against Etienne Bacro. Here white tried the move knight to h5. Is this a good knight on the edge of the board? Again, the question. So is this now a good knight on the edge of the board? Because probably white hopes for here that maybe there are some tactical possibilities around the square g7 or h6. Here the question is this a good knight on the edge of the board? So if yes, why yes? If not, why not? So it attacks, it's true, it attacks, but do we have support? It's good. Okay. The problem now, it's a good question, I think. The problem now, after move knight to h5, it's actually a huge blunder, because black played here a very cool move, f4, and locked the knight. You see, the knight will stay on the edge of the board till the end of the game. It's bye-bye knight, you're out of game, you know? And that's very important now in this. That's why I've created this series, that's why I've created this video, because we would probably, many of us would, and these are 2700 rated players. So Laurent Fressinet is 2700 in this game, and 2702 Etienne Bacron 2705, you know. And it's really unbelievable. F4 locks the knight, locks the bishop, locks the whole position. It's creating really a bad game here for. Khan, I'm gonna answer a question. What are the best openings for beginners? In my opinion, you have to find yourself a repertoire when you're playing as white. try first e4 or d4. So you have to know, for instance, if you play as with e4 against the Najdorf, then it's very important for you to find a setup against the Najdorf, a line that you prepare at home. And for black, I would choose the common Rui Lopez, Berlin defense, maybe some Sicilians. There are many great lines of the Sicilians. There are many sharp lines. If you're maybe a positional player, you can choose different lines of the Sicilian. You can choose the Najdorf. I like to play this hyper accelerated Dragon Sicilian. And for black against d4, I would always, but always first to white can untangle with bishop c5. And I would, just to answer the question, yeah, I would choose maybe the Nimzo, Bogo Indian, Queen's Indian. So this setup with knight to f6 and then e6 against d4. Then you have the flexibility to play b6, bishop to b7, or if early knight to c3 happens, then you can go into the Nimzo with bishop to b4. So these are my suggested openings. I think they're very healthy. They're meeting many opening principles that we're trying to study here. So f4. Hi Fadhel, isn't it possible to trade the knight somehow? It's not possible because I think white is not deciding anymore what's going on with that knight. In the game, bishop to d5 was played here by white. White to try to simplify the position, try to get rid of more defenders of the f4. Here, queen to d5, queen to d5, and c takes d5 was played. And it's really weird position, you see. Yeah, chess is indeed the best, yeah. And I think we can notice now that white is not making the decision anymore if these knights are going to be traded. I'm just saying that we have talked, for instance, in our previous video about the problems of bishops, how the bishop can be locked sometimes if we play really without caring where we're placing the bishop. We're just playing the bishop because we thought without further thinking. So here it was the same thing, I think, knight to h5, and we talked but that we have some attacking possibilities. This is now a bad bishop, really. It can be maybe improved somehow here, but I'm not seeing good ways how white should make the decision to trade off the pieces, you know. It gives, I think, from this point on, black a comfortable game. Do you agree or do you not agree? So yeah, think 6 moves ahead. It's, I think, in these examples that we have talked about here, there were not really this great tactical mistakes, you know, when we don't calculate. These were really positional mistakes in one move, you know. It was only one move, and I don't think that we had to calculate here in so much. Of course, in this first example we had this counter attacks, but after the move in the let's go back to the first example. I'm not sure if we had to calculate so much. It wasn't about thinking 6 moves ahead. It was simple idea to recognize the pattern after the move knight to a5 that something went wrong here. So rook to c7, we're activating. So you see black is paralyzed. Black gives up a pawn just in order to improve the bishop's activity. It's really bad position. So here also in this example we have paralyzed the position because the bishop took out the most important squares. Black could play maybe knight to b8, knight to c6, but it's a long run. You need 2-3 tempi in order to improve the position. Here also, so knight to h5 was a positional mistake in one move. So it's not something that I think we had to calculate too much. And here also, here in this example, it was very important to recognize the possibility of a weak square position where we could target here bishop to f3, we want to stay, and then bishop to e3, we're targeting here some weak squares, c5 and b6. And it wasn't, I think, so hard to calculate, because we are trying also to improve our positional understanding in this series. It's not about tactics. We'll come, of course, to tactics. So far, I like to include tactics into our subjects, because we want to see, of course, sometimes the continuation of the game. This counter-attack principle was, I think, very cool in this first example. So but it's not about tactics now, it's about now positional understanding. And you see now that even top grandmasters make positional blunders sort of in one move. So yeah, they have to be at least Istvan, they have to be at least calculated in one move, because I just want you to get out of this lesson today with these ideas. When we get out with our knight on the edge of the board, that we have to consider every other option, and we have to consider if it's a good knight on the edge of the board or it's a bad knight on the edge of the board. You know, at least we have to think about it for a while. You know. So do you agree on that? So that's the point of this one. So when we're playing with the knight on the edge of the board, at least we should calculate the next two moves. What could happen? Okay. So now we have reached one position where the knight is coming here to g6, or if the knight comes here, maybe somehow on b6. These are these two squares. Of course, from black's perspective, if we flip the board, if, for instance, the white's knight come here to g3, or if the knight comes here to b3. Yeah, of course, we're preferring, all of us are preferring to be very active with the knight, but some positions are not allowing us to play active with pieces, because our opponent plays on restriction ideas. He plays on ideas how to undermine the pressure, how to get a nice activity. What do you mean? Sometimes, when would you want your knights defending themselves, and when do you want? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's why let's go back. Okay. Let's do something. Let's go to analysis board. Okay. I hope. And let's flip the board here. So I hope then I can answer the question by SS. He asked, when do you want your knight defending themselves, and when you won't? So actually, what we are trying to do is to place our knights on the most active squares. For instance, when we play as black, we want to find some kind of an opening in which we're playing maybe with the move with our knight to f6, and somewhere on c6. We want to play the knight there, but it's not possible, of course. We cannot just play every time knight to f6 and knight to c6 and hope for a good game. So that's why I'm suggesting you, and that also answers the previous question, what is a good opening. I've mentioned it, I think, in the first video of the series 2. I play after e4, I play c5, knight to f3, g6, or knight to c6, the accelerated. So you see, I place the knight on a natural square, and I'm taking over of the d4 square. So that's how I try. And here, after something, I don't know, maybe knight to f3, I play g6, d4, c takes d, knight takes d, knight to c6, bishop to e3, bishop to g2, maybe something like bishop to c, and that I have now my common position of the hyper accelerated dragon Sicilian defense. That's my opening repertoire, where I have the knight on the most active squares. So they're not in this setup where we play maybe knight from b to d7 and then knight to f6. So they're not so passive. Of course, the knight can come sometimes from d7 to a very active square, something like c5. But that's why I'm suggesting you. Yeah, you can play Thinkbox, the Maroxy bind against me. It's not a problem. We'll try the Maroxy bind against the dragon if you like. We can do it. So here, that's why my recommendation, after d4, knight to f6, you see, first we're developing the knight on a natural square. After c4, we're playing on fast development, e6, knight to c3, bishop to b4. I'm not sure, but white can make this one, and still we can play something like, I don't know, maybe even c5 and knight to c6. And you see now, you see what I'm trying to say. That's why it's very important to find you good openings. And I've seen many times beginners are trying maybe after the move e4, c6. They're trying the Caro-Kann, because I'm sure why many players are trying to play the Caro-Kann, because they don't have to learn so much theory. After d4, they're playing d5, but still, at least in my opinion, in my honest opinion, in beginners level, that players should avoid to play the Caro-Kann. You see, the move c6 has taken out our natural square for the knight, you know, and still after the advanced variation, after e5, we don't have even this square f6, which would be also a natural square for our knight. So I hope you can agree with me, because I'm trying to get you first a healthy opening. Of course, you can maybe, when you're better and better, study a new opening, and then if you're familiar maybe with the common strategies or similar stuff of this opening. But still, as a beginner, I would recommend you to go in natural openings, because it's very, very important. So, okay, do you agree or do you not? Okay, we have reached now one position. It's a game played by Viktor Bologan against Sergei Arkhipov, and here we have this Kozio defense. Rui Lopez game, the Kozio defense. The Kozio defense is this reloading system where black hopes for after bishop to c6, and then knight to c6. But there is one problem, and we'll talk about this problem. Whenever you see, again, I'm pointing out, these are some things that you have to at least consider. It's not that you should always do that, but at least when you see this pattern, you should at least consider the option of doing this, what I'm trying to tell you here now. So after move knight to e7, there is one problem. And can you answer maybe the question, what's the problem now of the move knight to e7? I prefer Sicilian. You cannot play Sicilian against the first move e3, because it's a, yeah, e3 is a bad move. Thinkbox, thank you. E3 is a bad. It's not a bad move. You still can play it, but you can try after. I don't know. Let's go. That was the question. Let's see. Our opponent plays e3. Okay, you can try c5. It's not the problem, but in the next couple of moves, I think you have to make the decision. For instance, after e3, c5. Then maybe he tries d4. Okay, you have to maybe trade off, maybe play something like e6, then d5 and similar stuff. So I think the move e3 you will not see many times here but e3 gives us opportunities to simply take over in the center. We can try here, I think, even maybe d5. I would play d5 here. I mean, after something like d4, I would get out with my bishop somewhere and lock here. For instance, the light squares, play knight to f6, bishop to d6, maybe then for knight to d7, and would try maybe an e4, e5 pawn breakthrough. That would be sort of a setup. So here we have talked about this position. Yeah, the knight on e7 is blocking out the activity of the queen on d8 and of the bishop on f8. So the question is then the next, will this knight stay there forever? So The question is, will this knight stay forever on e7? So that's the question. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Thinkbox. Uh, because it's obvious that this knight will not stay there forever, and that's especially this. Uh, uh, as I said, the topic today is are the problems of knight. So here, after the move knight to g6, what when you ever see that your opponent has placed knight on g6, knight on b6 or something, these are not natural squares for the knight. These are not natural squares for the knight. And if we flip the board, of course, when maybe white's knight come here to g3 or b3, these are not natural, and these unnatural squares have to be again sort of a trigger for us. What's your suggestion now? Should we do against this knight on g6? So this unnatural squares for the knight, we have talked about this knight on the edge of the board. We saw when it is a problem, when it's not. When should we try to trap the knight? When should we place with the knight on the edge of the board? So here, after move knight to g6, it gives us one opportunity here immediately. Because first of all, what we can notice, black has broken a little bit the basic principles in chess. Has played with the same piece twice, which you should basically try to avoid. We should try to avoid also openings. Yeah, David, that's the spirit. H4, Istvan, yeah, H4. That's the spirit of attacking chess, you know? It gives us now really a nice grip of attacking position. H4, bam, here immediately. Viktor Bologan, great attacker. Here it was a game played by against Sergei Arkhipov. H4, very cool. You see, and whenever you, the same thing would have happened if our opponent would play the move knight to b6 somehow. Then we would play a4, a5. Be careful. Sometimes it's not possible, but I've talked about this. At least we should consider the option of doing this. You know. Here I think h4 is perfectly fine. We're attacking the knight and we're forcing now the knight maybe to retreat again on a weird square. Here, bishop to c5 was played. Let's proceed here. Okay, here's the option, h5. Very good. H5 is a common idea to... Okay, probably white would proceed here with move bishop, pardon me, with d4, then something like bishop to g5, queen to d2, and queenside castling, because we have exposed ourselves and white's activity is here better. White's activity is better because we have talked about these ideas. Black has played with the same piece twice, so he didn't gain anything by that. So h5 is a common idea. It's not that it's a bad move. It has to be played. I think here black tried bishop to c5. What to do now? We have talked about, yeah, after h5 I think d4, breaking the center immediately, fast developing bishop g5, queen d2, queenside castle, and then try maybe to attack the kings. Yeah, after that d4 looks promising. There is a delay. That's the problem about the series. Sometimes there is a delay between your comments and how I record it. So here, after the move bishop to c5, what should be now our continuation? So h5. Great, thank you. So h5. Here knight to f8 was played. Let's see now. Let's see now. A nice continuation. Okay, knight to a4. We have here. Okay, knight to a4. Does it really make something? I think it's attacking. Okay, bishop to b6, bishop to e7 is a possibility. a6, b5 could be then a possibility here for black to proceed to counterattack this bishop's and knight's activity. Knight to a4. So let's see here a nice move after move knight to f8. h6, okay. d4 is okay, but d4 is actually the prepper. You have to prepare one move and then you can play d4, which Victor Bologan saw. Let's see. Let's see now a nice tactic that can help us to develop faster, although it's actually trades of pieces. But yeah, grab the center would be possible if we prepare it with c3 d4. To answer Istvan's question, c3 d4, but then you have to move the knight, lose many tempi, c3 d4. So there is now a really cool way how to, yeah, thank you Thinkbox. Knight takes e5, very cool. Here knight takes e5 was played and now d4. So you see how we get very cool game by Victor Bologan. Bishop d6, we have d takes e5, bishop to e5. What now? What now? Here's also the question: how do you feel now in this position with a good activity with your pieces, with an advanced? How do you feel? Yeah, f4 or h6, very good. h6 and f4 are really the suggested lines by the engine, so they're, yeah, Thinkbox. Now the black stands like shit. Okay, we can say it like this. Yeah, h6 and f4 are the suggested lines really by the engine, and it's perfectly fine. Both moves are good because still we're on the attacking side, and that's exactly what I've talked about. You see how this sometimes this cozy opening can be bad because you're breaking this principle of playing with the same piece twice. And here, as you see, Victor Bologan played here bishop to c3, queen to e7. Let's see now the most aggressive move here. Let's think now like a top GM. Let's see now really a sharp move. Queen to e7 was the last move. Oh, Bruno is here. Hi, Bruno. Thanks for joining. Hi, Sweta Chess Square. This is my YouTube chess channel. So, okay, we're gonna promote Sweta Chess Square. Someone joined my stream. If you have to promote me through my channel, then it's not a problem. Just do it. Castle loses bishop. Okay, but here really a very aggressive. here is the problem. Here, let's see the possible. We want to be on the attacking side. We said we have h6, queen to e4. What now? What now? Where to go with our king? Where to go with our king? King f2, very good, very good. So you see now, the evaluation is +3 here for white. We threatening here this move. Rook to e1. You don't have time to take. If you try to retreat with the queen to g6, then we simply play h takes g7, queen to g7, and now rook to e1 with f5 is a possibility. So very, very bad position here. We can play rook to e1. Knight e6 can be met with f5, I think. So loses a piece. So okay, in the continuation of the game here, h6 was played, rook to g8, queen to f3. Here black tried to defend his pawn, a6, bishop to d3, and here bishop to a3. Let's look how this bishop pair now works in the game, with preparations to play e5, queen f6. What to do now after queen to f6? Queen f6, what to do now? Where? Queenside castle, kingside castle. Should we go queenside castle and kingside castle? e5 is also, I think, good. e5 is the second suggested move. He's trying to attack the pawn on c3. He's trying to attack the pawn on c3. Kingside. Okay, kingside castling would be actually, I think, even risky, because we have weakened the pawn structure too much. Here, really, the best move is queenside castling. What happens if queen takes c3? Even the position is so good here for white that you could have even stayed with the king in the center, that e5 is a possible. Because when you play with the bishop pair like this, I think it's a very, very nice choice. So you can play all over the board, sometimes even to stay with the king in the center. But these are things that have to be calculated. This was, of course, yeah, bishop to b5 wins the game immediately. So again, it's not the point that we're now analyzing the whole game. Here, let's go back. After the move, knight to g6, h4. That's a very nice move, because this knight is in troubles. This knight is in troubles. So here, again, a new example. Here, it's a position by Vasily Ivanchuk against Christian Bauer. Okay, so again, we have a similar setup. Knight g6, knight b6. So knight to c6 is not a possibility. We have a nice advanced pawn on d5. Again, we are asking ourselves the question: where is the knight probably going? e4, okay, e4, possible. But where is this knight going on g6? Probably we want to paralyze. We want to play like a boa constrictor here. We want to paralyze this ace hit out of him. So where is this knight on e7 probably going? To g6. And we have talked about when knight to g6 happens, what we're doing. So let's even prevent knight to g6. Yeah, that's cool. Think box h4 preventively. Yeah, h4. You see, this is Vasily Ivanchuk playing. You know how Chucky plays the game, man. Chucky plays it aggressive till the end. So h4. You see, if you play now your natural move knight to g6, you get really too pushed away. If you try maybe to activate your knight here, then even e3, you lose the piece. You lose maybe two knights for rook and a pawn. But you know, do you understand the grip now? Is it a good example here by Chucky? I think it's a quite good example. Here, Vasily Ivanchuk was in 2012, he was around 2770 rating. So here, black had to play h5. But the problem for black here is now that black loves these structures. Black loves to play d6, e5, like this. And black wants to go into similar structures like in the King's Indian. Here black would love to play, if we don't play for instance the move h4, what black would love to do is to maneuver the knight somewhere here, then play d6, knight to d7, and then go f5, f4, and e4 and similar stuff, bishop to e7, castling, and then black would have this King's Indian structure similar to the King's Indian when the center is closed and when black is trying to attack really fast on the king side with f5. So that's the main goal of this opening. So that's why here h4. It's actually from this this so-called Indian, yeah, it's Indian game it's called, but it's the so-called Mexican defense. Here it was played Mexican defense. So let's see the whole game here. d5, knight to e7, and now h4, h5. Vasily goes bishop to g5. You see now how this bishop gets very active. It gets fixed. Probably we're not going to castle anymore on the king side because we have weakened also, but it's possible still because both players have weakened the pawn structure on the king side. But the most important thing is here to realize that black cannot go very fast into his f5 idea. You see, so here in the game knight to g6 was played, e3, bishop to e7, and now bishop to d3. Also a very nice positional threat. What we're threatening, of course, is to play bishop takes g6 and simply messing up the pawn structure in front of the king. It could be very, very dangerous here for black. No. You mean here instead of a actually it doesn't bring you so much. It's a very you could do this queen to c6 and then knight to c6, you know. And you see now I think this is not so good here for queen d3. You see, even d5 here is a possible. C takes d5, then knight to b4. You see, and I think black is much faster here, or similar stuff. So yeah, d6, don't rush into that. It's not so dangerous. d6 has been played many times, but black can take here queen and then gets an extra tempo. So I don't think you gained anything here. Yeah, I think, Bruno, that h5 is actually a necessary move still by black here. I'm not seeing good ways how to proceed here. You could maybe go knight g8, in order to develop your dark square bishop, but still you broke the. So maybe you can suggest maybe d6, d6. Okay, okay. 10 h5 maybe even. So so let's continue here. Here, as I said, bishop to d3, d6, knight to f3, and you see now knight to f8 has to be played. So as I said, it is now a position in which white is +1 here, which is very important from an engine perspective. Of course, it's +1, but that's not the point about this one. You see, be fair to yourself. Do you really like this position of blacks now? Do you really like his setup? Do you like his coordination of the pieces? Let's just answer to that question. So I think white has a nice flexibility here. From this point on, of course, you have to also be active now. Yeah, white has space advantage, white has, and that's the most important thing here, that you see now that actually white has here all of the pieces on really natural attacking squares, really on the best squares on the board, you know. Do you agree? Here you see natural moves: knight to f3, knight to c3, bishop to d3, great activity, bishop to g5. We still have flexibility, maybe something like queen c1, queen c2, queen d2, queen side castling. I don't know, maybe knight d2 is also very nice, good idea. Knight d2, knight d4. I don't. So as I said, we're studying here opening principles. So of course, sometimes you have to also do some things for you. You have to know how to punish this position, be active. But from a setup, this h4 idea, I think, yeah, like a Philidor gone very wrong. So again, it's not the point that I will show you now the whole game. Very important to realize this endangered knight. We have talked so far about this knight on the edge of the board, when it is good, when it's not good, and we have talked about now these ideas when our opponent is playing the knight on g6 and knight on b6. I hope I'm not going too fast. I hope we realize this idea. So if I'm going too fast, just say I'm too fast. The whole thing about this lecture today is that you realize these patterns simply by the knight. Okay, here it's it's a game played by Garry Kasparov, and Garry Kasparov played against my brother, and my brother also played this Kozio defense setup. And here bishop to c4, d3, bishop to e7. Let's see now what are we doing against the knight on g6. Yeah, knight to d2 in this previous example would be a very nice idea. Here, let's see. After knight to f8, knight d2 was the move by Vasily Ivanchuk. A very nice move. Knight g4 takes. Here f3 and queenside castling, and white had really a comfortable game. So yeah, knight d2. You see, I think, you see, we have solved the 3 stages of the opening. We have talked about these 3 stages in my first and second video. So playing with all of our minor pieces, getting securing the king, maneuver the queen from the first rank, and the rook connection. So here we have g3 and h4 in this position. Very good, thank you for answering. So g3 or h4, which is more aggressive? Is h4 possible? So we have talked about the h4 idea. Is it possible to play h4, or do we have it to support it with g3 first? So is it necessary to play g3, or can we play h4 immediately? g3, we have again g3. So we want to play g3, h4. Okay. g3. Support first. Okay. But it wouldn't be Gary if Gary would not play h4. That was, as I said, the game. It was a simultaneous exhibition in which Gary Kasparov played against my brother. h4 is actually possible. So, as I said, we have to consider the option of h4. You know, we have to consider the option of h4. That's I really am trying here to sometimes change your thinking process in chess. We have recognized the pattern of the move of the knight on g6. You know, we have recognized. Now the problem is now that black has, of course, the battery here with 3 pieces, but actually h4 is a possibility, because if you play knight to h4, knight takes h4, bishop to h4, bishop to queen to h5, here is the problem. You can also try bishop to f7. I mean, so queen to h5 threatens to take the piece, and it's game over here. So it's +5 here. g6, queen takes h4, queen takes, rook takes, and we're continuing the game with an extra piece. So, you know, h4, you know, but that's exactly what we're trying to do here in this series. We're trying to change our thinking process. So bishop to e7, and most of us wouldn't even, oh no, he played bishop to e7, damn, he has attacked the h4 3 times, you know, and that's not how we want to play. We want to play Glagari. We want to play like Vasily Ivanchuk, you know. Very cool stuff, I think. Very so that's what I meant. Consider the option. Consider the option. If you cannot calculate maybe 3-4 moves, okay, then give it up on that idea. But at least consider the option. Consider the option. So that's the most important thing. You know, at least we talked about it, and we cannot calculate. Okay, we're stopping. We cannot calculate tactics so good. Okay, it's not a problem. But h4 has to be one of our candidate moves. It has to be. It has to be somewhere in our head. Do you agree? Oh, Mike is here. Mike Smith. Very cool. Yeah. So here's another example. Here it's white that played. Here we have already castled. We have already castled here for black's perspective. And here white tried knight to g3. What are we doing here? What to play in our Garry Kasparov Vasily Ivanchuk style? What are we doing here now? Very cool. H5, yeah, we're playing in that style, because the problem about this maneuvers, knight e2, knight g3, you know, it's that white lost a couple of tempi, you know, we're playing h5, we want to play h4, kicking away the knight. Again, the knight has to play. If the knight removes somewhere on the first rank, then it's inactive, and so h5, yeah. Bishop to e2, h4. Here, white play the c5. What's played? d5. Okay. h5. Yeah. Now the game is transposing into something else, and it's playable. Here we can break the position with e6 and similar stuff. But black found really a great way how to be active here. Maybe h3. Okay, I accept h3 as it's the best suggested move by the engine. I accept, but that was all possible because we realized the possibility of h5 in the first place. Do you agree? But I like still more somehow black's next move. It wasn't h3. h3 is the most correct move, and e6 is also good. But I like always this style when you see now many pieces on the first rank, the knight is a little bit out of game. Let's consider one more option, at least for me, you know, at least. Yeah, b5. Yeah, thank you, Spielhoff. That was just for me. b5. Yeah, I like b5. b5. b damn 5. Yeah, that's the move I wanted to also to consider. At least, you know, you don't have to play it sometimes in your own games when you have the structures, but at least consider it sometimes, because it gives now really this Benko gambit structures. If you're familiar with the Benko gambit, we can notice here that white is slightly passive. White has played with the knight 3 times already. We haven't. We have played with our bishop once. We have played once with our knight. Our bishop's activity is still good, although we haven't played with the bishop. The knight still has to be improved. But b5 I like really the most, although it's not the best engine move, but it's the sharpest move. And here, after c takes b5, knight to b5 is not a possibility. You lose your centralized pawn. Here c takes b5, a6. That's the main Benko gambit motif. We're deflecting more pawns from the center. Here bishop to g5 was played. Now h3 was played. G takes h3, a takes b5, bishop to b5. What's now the next move? It's a common tactic. It's a common tactic in these positions. It's a common tactic, liberating tactic that gives black now a beautiful game. It gives black a very active game. So it's really not bishop to a6. We have really nice tactic, and you should see it sometimes. Yeah, knight e4, very cool. Knight takes e4. There is now this tension. Knight takes e4, queen to a5. Knight has to move back to protect the bishop. Bishop to c3, b takes c3, queen to b5, everything forced. And although you have given up your dark square bishop, which is the protector, but still this can be protected with f6. Bishop takes e7 is not a possibility. Rook to e8 will happen, and you lose the bishop. And still we have now bishop to h3. The bishop will sneak in here on light squares. The king is endangered. The knight is still on f1, you know, and that was all possible because we played the move h5 h4 in the first place. So okay, yeah, I think I need more coffee too. I have here coffee. I would give you some coffee. I would cook some coffee at home, but I have really good coffee. So, okay, but let's just stop here in this position. Do you like now black's position, black's activity? Just answer that. How do you feel? No, I'm not Agadmator's roommate. I'm his brother-in-law, and actually he's living in an apartment next to mine here. He's living in the next apartment there. So just the question is, how do you feel? We're not talking about tactics. We're not talking about strategies. How do you feel? Just and if I would have been Antonio's Agamator's roommate, we would probably both get a divorce or something, because we would not hang out with the chicks probably. We would just play chess, you know, and that's not good. It's better for us that we're not so much together. We'll just drink beer and play probably some 3+0 on a clock chess through the whole day. What's the update? Okay, black is good. I think we can agree that black is perfectly fine here. So let's see. I'm just gonna make computer evaluation. Yeah, it's +1 for black. +1 for black. So yeah, Devin, it's probably the best that you teach your girlfriend chess, because if you want to stay married or if you want to stay with your girlfriend, then it's probably the best that she knows chess, you know. Then you have everything glued together. You can be with your girlfriend and still can play chess. It's a great setup, sort of. My wife doesn't want to play chess, so then I have some troubles. Okay, we can agree that it was a good setup here for black. Black won the game eventually, and this is a game in FIDE master level. Okay, it's perfectly fine, I think. And as an example, I really liked here this aggressive approach by black, who really with. Yeah, my wife doesn't want to lose too. She wants to play sometimes chess with me, and she doesn't understand that I'm trying then to play my best chess. I'm never give her odds or something. So, and then she gets angry with me, and that's not good, you know. Then we don't, you will not get some, you know. Okay, uh, we have talked now. I hope you're satisfied with these examples of the problems of the night. Karpov story, yeah. Okay, now we have 3 examples of your games, which you sent me on email. Again, I'm pointing out here. I'm gonna write my email down here in the chat box. Okay, so again, I would love for the next video again you to send me some of your games. Especially, please send me just the games that are bothering you. I've seen many times you texted me really some of your cool games, great attacking games, but they're not really for. We can make a special video about your cool games, but when we teach, when we learn the strategies, I think these games that bother you are more important. So we'll make really a special video about your best games. It's also very important, but these games that you sending me were really cool. Here it's Sergey 75 against Kobe 318, and let me see, it was, I think, who sent me this. I've here Daniel Catch, Joshua Grant, and Tyrell Jeffries, your games, and Paulo Pablo also sent me his French defense games here on Gmail. So Sergey Kobe 318, is Kobe here 318? Kobe 318, it's on leeches, so is this viewer here on stream. So that's the game I've... Yeah, I could do a try rating clown from 600 to 2000. Okay, I'm not sure who Kobe 318 is. I think it's maybe, is it, no, it's not Tyrell. I think it's Joshua Grant, or is it d4 e6? Yes, it's Joshua. d4 e6, knight to f3, or not, knight to f3, d5 bishop. No, it's not that. Okay, here is the game, and it's quite cool that it actually met with our ideas. So it was Kobe 318 sending me this. So I have troubles because you have one name on Gmail, and you're sending me now many things. So here b6, e4. I really like now this approach, e4, getting pawn central control here. Against this setup, it's perfectly fine. Here bishop to b7, bishop to d3, very cool. Knight to e7, quite a passive setup. Again, we could have probably thought about this idea. Knight to g6, that will happen, that we could go h4, h5. Here in the game, castling was played, f6, and here c3, and that's especially, you know, a typical, I think, beginner thing that you make with the move c3, because it's obvious that this is not good here for black. Black has played here the move f6, knight to e7 really didn't attack anything. So there are now several ways how to make this position, and believe me, when I tell you that that one of the best suggested moves here is actually the move h4, because of our knight to g6 possibility strategy here, you know. It's really wild that you sent me this game, and it comes with our ideas that we have talked about. h4 is here one of the best moves, knight to c3, normal development, and even c4. So these are the best suggested lines. So, and so, but as I said, it's probably going to happen that knight will come to g6, and then we have h4, h5. So this f6 setup is not good. So it's something that black tried. e5. e5 gives, I think, sort of a clarification in the center. That's called a clarification. You know, after e5, f5 will happen, and black has solved, I think, although white is much better here, but after move f5, the pawn structure is fixed in the center, and it's really hard now to attack here with h3 g4 in order to break somehow this position, because of course we would love to attack this king on e8, because we have the space advantage here on the 5th rank. We have talked about space advantages. We have also this pawn on the king side, so we have talked about this idea as directed attack. So this d4 e5 setup is telling us that we should attack the king side, but it's really hard to make that happen, because after h3 g4 you have to weaken also your king. So I like really h4 immediately, but c3 is really too passive because black has played really passive setup, and it's time to punish that. It's time to break that. So here, after potential c4, if black tries here maybe d5, here I think we can immediately take e takes d5. That's the line I've prepared at home. I try to see here e takes d5, here rook to e1, and you see this knight is not going anywhere. So you see how bad it can be sometimes when you play these passive setups, when you're not battling for the center, when you're not developing ability of this. So then maybe knight to e5 with queen to h5 is even a tactical shot. So it's really, really wild. So it was a bad game, but c3 is something that you don't do. You have taken again your natural square for the knight. At least knight to c3. If you don't want to play aggressively, if you don't want to calculate, just develop the piece on the best square. So okay, do you agree? Or okay, so c3 was played, knight to g6, and you see we would love to have now this pawn on h4. We have talked about this ideas. No, so h4 h5 we would play immediately. Let's imagine this position. I don't know if we play h4 and now our opponent plays here h5, I would play immediately. So again, the knight has to move here, knight to e7, and here simple develop. Even h6 is here a possibility, you know. That's really the example that I loved, because I will prepare this video for the problems of knights, and it's especially now a problem for the knight in the opening. We will talk about problems, different problem ideas in middle games, bishop versus knight middle games, two knights versus two bishops, and similar stuff too. So but these are patterns, really patterns. So okay, here see so f6, c3, bishop to e3. Yeah, you see now, look what happened to my chess friend here that texted me the game. It actually happened to him because of the move c3. He has taken the natural square for his knight. Now he has to play. He was scared probably if he plays knight to d2, where's he going to go with his bishop? So he tried bishop to e3. After knight to d2, suddenly his pieces got too cramped here. They're simply too close to each other, and there were some tactical possibilities here. Queen to c2, a3, c5. Here what happened actually is that here after a move rook to c8, again rook to c8 happened, and that's when the game went wrong, I think, for my friend here. Rook, after the move rook to c8, we have an attack, and he didn't consider the option of a counter attack. So what would be the counter attack here? What would be the counter attack? Here in this position, our queen got attacked, but we have to find a counter attack. Queen a4, thank you. Yeah, very good. Queen a4, it gives us new opportunities. Yeah, queen to a4, perfectly fine. We have a double, we have attacked the knight twice. The knight moves. We can of course take the pawn. If the rook retreats, then we have taken over on the c file. Very important, consider the option of a counterattack. Sometimes it's not possible. I've talked about that many times. Sometimes it's not possible to create a great counterattack, but here it was possible. And I actually like the idea here that white kept this pawn central control, because if now black pushes the pawn somehow here, then we can take here immediately. And here queen to a4 unfortunately didn't happen. Queen to b3, it's not attacking anything. You see, it was a nice possibility, and it would give here white a position +3. it's really incredible. So it's a great still game here for white. Queen to b3, and now we have these problems of f5 here. White didn't take, and you see now the pieces are a little bit here blocked out. Even f4 here was an immediate possibility, I think, to trap the bishop. But that was all. You see all of these problems with the move bishop to e3, knight to d2, knight to f3. The setup is only, everything is happening because of this move c3. Everything, really everything, because you have taken the natural squares for your knight. Sometimes you will have to play this moves, knight c3, in order to fix something, but I think it was really unnecessary because white had the pure domination in the center. White had a great piece activity. You see, now I think I kind of know what he was thinking about here. c3, and then I don't know where to go with my bishop. If I play knight to d2, you know, and then I want, okay, let's play with the bishop then, and then play knight to d2, and suddenly you see the bishop on e3 becomes a huge problem here. After move f5, you see f4, and the bishop got trapped, and white lost the game. So natural squares, natural squares, natural squares. So see, yeah, c4, thank you, thinkbox. c4 would be okay, I think. c4 here, let's go back. Instead of c3, we can play c4, and then knight to c3, and okay, we have a again nice setup. It's perfectly fine. So, but as I said, this would have been cool if white would have proceeded with the move h4, recognize the potential possibility of the knight to jump on g6. So that would be really awesome. So that would be really something wild. Okay, this was our first example. Now we have another. Here it's let me see, it was this correspondence game in the Zuckertort. Let me see, I think it was let me see my mail. It was beginner chess game. Let me see. Call Tyrell. It was Tyrell, I think. Tyrell Jeffries. So here it's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable what happened here in this game, and I really loved this game as an example. So here black tried the move a6, and sometimes in chess we got distracted by our own ideas, you know, and that's really wild, because obviously here, because of this, there is also, that will be also subject of our streams, the direction of the attack. We have talked about in our previous example of this, where was this, when the pawn structure is fixed. So when we have this pawn structure actually telling us where we should attack. Here is an example of piece activity, and the piece activity coordinates the attack, where we should attack. So from a piece activity point of view, it's obvious that many pieces are directed to the king side, and that's of course something that you have to know. So we should probably attack the king side, but the problem is now black is trying to attack the queen side, and with the move a6, black has announced the possibility to attack the queen side. So let's give this sort of a measurement. So black is better on the queen side, white is better on the king side. So in order, in this opposite side attack games, although it's not the common opposite side attack game, the common opposite side attack game would be something if you castle here queen side, if you castle, and then of course it's obvious that we're attacking our opponent's king, who is faster, will probably win the game. But it's in this particular case, it's also an opposite side attack game. So black is attacking the queen side with b5, white is attacking the king side with g4, f4, h4 idea. So in order to be faster, you have to threaten first, or undermine the pressure, or stop your opponent's attack faster. Yeah, it's Zuckertort, yeah. So here it's actually where the whole game went wrong for white. White is now basically two good options. So as we said, in this opposite side attack games, at least we should block our opponent's potential progress or be fast on our attacking progress. So let's answer the question, what would be a good blocking idea here for white? To block a little bit black's progress on that side where he is better. So it's an opposite side attack game, as I said, so we want to block our opponent's progress. How to block his progress, at least for a while. At least we're stopping him not to move fast immediately. What would be the move to block his potential progress? a4, thank you. So thank you for answering, think box. So a4. And when we think about this opposite side game, it's actually quite a cool game to play, this opposite side at that game. It's something that a4, because look how many moves now black has to make in order to make his goal b5. His main goal was b5. Here, actually what white played here, f4, which seemed like a normal idea to cement the knight, but actually what happened here is b4. Look how many moves now black needs to play in order to make the b5. We play a4, b5 not a possibility. If he plays rook to b8 here immediately, then the position could be blocked with which next move? Yeah, Terrell, yeah, it's your game. Look, let's find out the next blocking move to block his progress. Let's find out the next blocking move. So here in this position, black has already lost one tempo on the queen side because he has to play one more move. He has to play rook to b8. Let's block him further. a5, yeah, thank you, a5. So now he doesn't have any more the move b5. If b5 happens, then a takes b6, maybe queen to b6, but his pawn structure is not connected anymore. Look after f4, what happened? Black had the immediate opportunity to play the move b5, you know? He had the immediate opportunity to play the move b5. That was the problem. Black has an expansion here. White didn't counterattack, so here a4, we've talked about a4. So in order to make something happen, black has to play first the move b6, you know, not allowing the move a5. So but it's a new loss of tempo. So we said we have this opposite side attack game. At least we're forcing black to be a little bit slower. Do you agree or do you not agree? Here with this progress with b6, black has to play at least one more move, rook to b8, but we're doing at least something in the meanwhile. At least we could try maybe now f4, you know, but at least black, we didn't give black the advantage on the queen side immediately. Do you agree? He will get his he will get eventually his queenside attack, but at least we can slow it down a little bit. At least it's not going to happen immediately. Do you agree? He'll get his fun, but we're having fun in meanwhile too, you know? While he's doing something, we'll make something too. So, you know, and that was the option, as we said, that was the option in order to block. In order to block the position. And that was, I'm pointing you this move out because I think it was the critical moment in which Tyrell really got into troubles. You know, if we don't want to block, we have talked about this position, it's an opposite side attack game, so we want to be okay. We don't want to block, we're not chickens, we're not blocking players. We want to be Kasparov, I don't know, Vasily Ivanchuk, Artur Yusupov. We want to play, I don't know, we want to play sharp. So it's an opposite side attack game. Let's find us our better move. Maybe we don't want to be blockers. Let's find an aggressive attacking move, which would be which one? Let's find ourselves the next best attacking move. Yeah, other kind of players, yeah. So let's find ourselves for white. Okay, we don't want to block. Let's find ourselves a nice attacking move here. Or like Tal, of course, yeah. G4, thank you guys. G4, very cool, very cool. G4. And if you put this position into an engine, it will give you A4 or G4 as the best next move. But that's only because you understand the position, that it's actually an opposite side attacking, you know? And here in, but it's not the most, you see, we can talk about computer evaluations, but I think we have explained now why A4 or why G4 are the best next moves. You know, G4 is possible. Yeah, G4, then we want to play G5, the knight gets somewhere here, and then we get queen to H5. Perfectly fine. Not a problem. Okay, it's part of our style. If you want to be a more positional pragmatic player with A4, or do you want to be a sharp player with the move G4? Want to play like Tal, or we want to play like Karpov, you know? So both options, but actually what Tyrell did here, he played the move F4, but it doesn't have to be played because the knight is perfectly protected. Still, we're going to probably take, after knight takes bishop to E5, we'll still take probably with the D pawn, and nothing dramatically has changed, I think. But the problem is now you don't have to play a passive move. You don't have to play. It's actually a passive move, which is really incredible, the move F4. Although it seems like a logical move F4, you know? And that was, I think, the critical moment of the game. As I said, Kumar, books to study. I like Lisicin. I like, you should study, I don't know, maybe endgame books by Laszlo Polgar. Very, basically, there are many good books. Whatever you read, yeah, actually, we evaluate the possibility here, playing G4. Where are we going to castle in? We evaluate the potential here, that we can stay with the king in the center when the center is locked. Is the center now locked? Is the center closed? Is the center closed here? Yeah, Tyrell. Yeah, we're slowing him down a little bit. A4, and okay. We're slowing down his pace. We're doing then afterwards our thing. He needs at least 3-4 moves in order to move his B5. Okay. Fixed, yeah, but not closed. It can be opened. That's the most important thing. So that's why when we think about this position more, I still kind of more like the move a4, then g4. We'll come to g4 in one particular moment. Maybe then afterwards castling, queen to f3, queen to h3, and similar stuff. Yeah, you know, I like still more a4, to be honest. But probably Vasily Ivanchuk would play g4 immediately, so he would play that for sure. So and that's what the whole point of Tyrell's game, which I think was really cool that he sent me this game, because it's such an instructive game. F4 gives you now serious troubles, because b5, you see now we have queen to f3, h6, maybe not the most accurate move here, but c4, look what's going on. Black is making progress. Bishop to e2, and suddenly we're on the passive side. We cannot control anymore so good the e4 square. Black will play bishop to b7 and will cement his knight on e4. So Tyrell tried bishop, queen to h3. He tried now his common attack with the normal Zukertort attack, and Tyrell is probably familiar with the tactics, but actually this position would be great to play with the bishop on d3. Imagine now this position with the bishop on d3, and with here without the b4, b5, c4. This would be then a perfect position. Then we could play something like g4, g5, and I think black can resign. So it's a huge difference. One move which we didn't realize, and it's actually game over. So okay. So, and the last example, it's actually an example of the Catalan. It was Tay. I know it was. I'm not sure who texted me this anymore. So we have here the Catalan setup, and that's why here it's a suggestion of me not to go into too much aggressive lines if you're a beginner, because the Catalan can be really messy. Here white tried to play the Catalan, and the problem is now this line after d takes c4, you will have troubles to take again out this pawn, because here black played really aggressively with the move queen to d5, and after castling, which was the correct move, here bishop to e4, and you will have troubles against these setups. Here unfortunately e3 was played. Fixing better way is knight to b1, even knight to c3, or we have to kick away somehow this bishop. Really here, as I said, here maybe even knight to h4 after something like bishop to e4 after e4. So it's really you have to be careful in the Catalan. As I said, I tried to play the Catalan and gave up on it because it's sometimes so aggressive. And if you're not familiar here, my friend who texted me this game had really troubles here, you see, to defend this position. Bishop to d2, bishop is out of game. Black has here a nice battery. Black has a protection of the c4 pawn, so here knight to a6, rook to c1, bishop to b4. Although this wasn't probably the best move by black, but still after bishop to b4, look at this position, the knight comes very excellent to the game. So this was my suggestion, to maybe here for my chess friend to search for a different opening line. The Catalan has so many sidelines, and you have to be, I think, careful. f4, let's see, f4 by Tyrell. It's actually, I don't think it's a theory move, because there's no game in the database in the move f4. It could be maybe in different in different ideas. Yeah, it would be after b6, then f4 would be, or queen to c7, then f4 would be necessary. But still, black hasn't made progress. Black cannot play just immediately b5 after queen to c7. Okay, I understand the possible f4, but f4 wasn't necessary here. So that was, so here for my friend, he had already troubles here with the move knight to d3. I think he was in serious troubles in this particular line. As I said here, although the evaluation is about, yeah, it's even better here for but still I think there were simply better moves here for black to proceed here. Bishop to a3, it's even a possibility of really messing up the pawn structure here. I'm not sure whenever you're gonna get this pawn anymore. So really bad position. So Catalan is for sharp players, but you have to be, I think, familiar with the common sidelines like this. Black played here, I think, a decent game. And as I said, this will be it for today. We can talk now a little bit if you like. What are your suggestions? What should we change? Do we have to maybe study more your games? Still, as I said, here's again my email. I will write it down so you can text me again. Really great games like this, because I think they were really instructive. We can use them in order to see what's going on, why do you have problems. So here after move, you see in this Catalan, I think after move bishop to a3, for instance, white is lost here. So as I said, if you have now suggestions what we should change, we have now 2 hours stream, so I like this format. Devin said so we're doing always one subject, and we can analyze your games, or we can analyze maybe a top grandmaster, or maybe even a another great game by maybe an engine or something. So yeah, okay, if you have a suggestion, please, we can change things if something is not working correctly. So if it's too fast, maybe if you want to maybe study, but actually we're not going to maybe learn so many openings here. The openings you have to realize for yourselves. It's, I think, more important for me to realize, for you to realize these patterns: knight on the edge of the board, knight on g6, knight on b6, problems of the bishops and similar stuff, which can happen to you in any opening. So that's why I think it's very, very important. So thank you, Kumar, for the good words. Yeah, we could do also stock versus little c0, where you can maybe suggest some moves, try to see the best next continuations and similar stuff. It's also, yeah, they have really great games, especially in this sharp tactics. But still, in my opinion, the tactics you can already learn for yourself. Just study some tactical shots, try to see now. Yeah, I wouldn't use the Catalan immediately, Paulo, thank you. I tried to play it, I gave up on it, because there were so many sharp lines, and I had some success, but then I just saw that it's not fitting for me. I'm not a great tactician, I have to be honest. I'm stuck in tactics. I like more strategies. I like to recognize strategy patterns in chess games, so that's simply my style. Playing, for instance, against a bad bishop, I'll see more often than I'll see maybe even a checkmate in 3 or something. So it's something that I do, and that's simply my style. So guys, this will be it for today. Thank you for joining. Thank you all for participating, and we'll see you soon with some more lessons like this. I hope you like it. As I said, I have prepared about 150 to 200 subjects which we'll do in this series, so be prepared. We're gonna break it. So okay, this will be it. As I said, see you soon, guys. Chess is the best.